Right now at noon, the DeForest Village Board holds a meeting on whether to remove fluoride from its drinking water. What comes next from the decision made? Plus, the Trump administration looks to end all DEI programs. How the new administration is also revoking a Biden-era policy prohibiting ICE agents from making arrests. This is News 3 Now at noon. Thanks for joining us today at noon. I'm Josh Freider. Right now, the DeForest Village Board is looking for more community input on whether to remove fluoride from drinking water. DeForest residents arguing both for and against water fluoridation at last night's meeting. Community members also taking issue with what they call a lack of communication from the village board, saying it should be brought to public forum.
I find it very concerning that the topic of fluoride being removed from the water system has been brought to the board, but it hasn't been brought to the public forum.
There should be transparency of process.
The board's next meeting is set to take place February 4th. Next month, voters in Madison will decide on another referendum to keep its school district in operation. The proposed referendum seeks voter approval to exceed the state-imposed revenue limit by $1.75 million. This is annually for the next 4 years. In the November election, residents voted against the referendum for a second time. The district superintendent says if the third vote fails, the district will have to consider dissolving because without additional funding, the district projects it will be unable to operate beyond the 2026-27 school year. Vote Yes for Madison Kids has been organizing within the community to get people on their side. The group includes a local business owner who says he's closely considering the consequences of this vote.
You lose people that don't want to be here because there is no school, then you also lose any kind of economic impact you could gain from a business coming to town.
The estimated property tax impact of an approved referendum would be 35 cents per every $1,000 of assessed property value. The next vote will take place on February 18th during the state's primary election. Happening tonight, Governor Evers will call for more mental health services for the schools during his State of the State address at the Capitol. This will be the governor's 7th State of the State address. During it, Evers will note the $30 million included in the state budget for school-based mental health services, stating it was only a fraction of what he requested. The governor also plans to talk about prescription drug prices, the state's tax burden being the lowest in 50 years, and more. You can watch that address on Channel 3000 Plus. It is scheduled for 7 this evening. Republican lawmakers want to change Wisconsin law to allow candidates to remove their names from the ballot. The proposal would address an issue that happened during the presidential election in the state. Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tried to remove himself from the ballot after dropping out, but could not. Under the new proposal, a candidate could withdraw by submitting a sworn statement to the Wisconsin Elections Commission and paying a fee. It would not apply to major party candidates for president because of the unique ways they are selected. Well, temperatures are beginning to warm up, and we've also got some snowfall out there. Here's First Warn meteorologist Jacob Montesano with your certified most accurate forecast. Hi, Jacob.
Hey Josh, it is funny that you mentioned that temperatures are warming up because it still feels very cold outside. But the big story today has been the snowfall. We continue to see some light snow showers across southern Wisconsin. Most of the area is seeing the snow at very light pace right now, but this also may continue for a good chunk of the afternoon. Right now, the heaviest snow is just to the east of Dane County, impacting areas between us and Milwaukee. Again, the snow not too heavy, but it is a little bit at moderate levels. And for the most part, we're just going to continue to see these scattered light snow showers across the area. Now, just because it's not showing up entirely on the future track, it doesn't mean it won't be snowing at that time. Again, we might just see some of these light flurries just linger, but we could still see more consistent snow, especially during the evening hours. Now, once we get to the overnight hours, a lot of it looks to clear up. Could see some lingering flurries overnight, but for the most part, a lot of it will clear out by Thursday morning. Now, temperatures are still on the colder side, teens and even lower 20s further out west, so it definitely is better. Taking a look at the temperature change, over 20 degrees warmer for all of southern Wisconsin. But even with that, we're still dealing with wind chills in the single digits for Madison and areas to the east, even below zero, -2 in Juneau County. A little bit better further west, but the winds are going to continue to be a bit breezy throughout the rest of today and tonight. So we're going to have another morning with below zero wind chills tomorrow. I'll talk more in detail about that coming up a little bit later.
All right, Jacob, we'll see you then. Thank you. President Trump is moving quickly to end diversity, equality, and inclusion programs in the federal government. CBS News is also learning his administration has canceled all refugee travel to the United States until further notice. Natalie Brand has the latest from Washington.
In a new memo obtained by CBS News, the Trump administration has instructed federal agencies to cancel any diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and close DEI offices. By 5 o'clock today, all employees working in those roles are to be notified that they will be placed on paid leave as the administration seeks to shut down DEI programs.
Our country is going to be based on merit again. Can you believe it?
The administration says targeted immigration enforcement operations are also underway nationwide, though President Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, didn't give specifics.
ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
As part of new, tougher measures, the administration has revoked a Biden-era policy prohibiting ICE agents from making arrests at sensitive locations like schools or churches.
We understand that people are scared. We understand that people are frightened because Donald Trump, with the support of House Republicans, have now said this is within bounds.
And CBS News has learned the State Department has canceled all refugee travel to the U.S. until further notice. For now, this does not affect special immigrant visa holders who assisted U.S. military forces. The group Global Refuge calls the change devastating. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Refugees typically go through rounds of security and medical screenings before being allowed into the U.S. The process typically takes years to complete. With the new administration in Washington, there's also new concern from immigrants in Wisconsin about their status. This arose before President Trump signed his executive order on immigration. It means they'll enforce stricter border policies while ramping up deportation. Now, the American Hispanic Association is aiming to provide clarity about what comes next. Tony Gonzalez is the director of Wausau's chapter. Gonzalez believes the community needs to be educated on this process and work to take this issue to legislature.
Not everybody that gets detained by ICE necessarily gets deported. So it's important that people realize that sometimes it's just an investigative procedure. Our local law enforcement is not seeking to go and get people that may have an ICE detainer, but if there is a criminal warrant, they will come.
Gonzalez also urges people to remember phone numbers of loved ones and to have documents that identify them ready and available. Still ahead for us on a Wednesday afternoon, how much Netflix is hiking its monthly fee for U.S. subscribers, plus why the U.S. is getting
The U.S. is getting a big jolt in funding for artificial intelligence. Yesterday, President Donald Trump was joined by the CEOs of tech companies OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle as he announced that the companies have pledged to invest up to $500 billion for AI infrastructure over the next 4 years. It's part of a joint venture called Stargate. Trump alleges the project could add more than 100,000 jobs for Americans. Netflix is hiking its monthly fee for U.S. subscribers by anywhere from $1 to $2.50, depending on what plan a user currently has. The increase comes after the company reported gaining nearly 19 million new users over the holidays, thanks in large part to its live programming. Netflix says the cost for adding an extra family to an account will remain at $6.99. And bad news for the champagne industry. Fewer people raised a glass or popped a cork last year. The Champagne Committee, a producers association, says bubbly shipments dropped almost 10% last year compared to 2023. Champagne exports also fell by more than 10%. The committee blames inflation, world conflicts, and political uncertainty in the U.S. and France for the drop in sales. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Chanel Call.
Here's a look at the stock report at this hour. The Dow is up 103 points, NASDAQ up 289, and the S&P 500 up right now 47. Our call for action volunteers are in the building taking your consumer complaints and taking action on your behalf. You can call for action at 608-270-2833 or submit a claim anytime at channel3000.com/call-for-action. We have today's ag numbers straight ahead along with the first warn forecast. And later on Live at 4, we talk to a local author, Laura Gallagher, about her new book, Home Again, a restoration story. Pam Bianchi is out of the radio barn this afternoon, so here are your farm numbers. Intense and rare winter weather is sweeping across the South with the most snow in decades in Houston and the most in more than a century in New Orleans. Alabama and Florida are also seeing dangerous conditions. At least 4 people have died. Here's Skylar Henry.
A winter wonderland on the beaches of North Florida. Snow-blanketed sand in Panama City as a winter storm swept along the Gulf Coast. In Pensacola, more than 7.5 inches of snow Tuesday shattered the previous record set in 1895.
It was not another car or truck on the interstate, it was scary. It was freaky.
The winter weather forced officials to shut down a 65-mile-long stretch of Interstate 10 in the Florida Panhandle. The storm started in Texas early Tuesday, with the Houston region getting buried by a historic 3 to 5 inches of snow, which closed highways and emptied city streets, as CBS's Janet Shanlian saw.
This is the middle of the street in downtown Houston right now. Normally it would be packed with traffic, but this is an historic amount of snow for this city, and Houston is virtually shut down.
This is absolutely crazy.
8 inches in the New Orleans area Tuesday was 3 times the city's previous snowfall record. Katie Weiss is there.
An historic weather event here in the Big Easy, the most snowfall the Big Easy has ever seen in its history. So much, look, it's up to my ankles. It's a lot of snow. And so that's why the city has hired 14 snowplows from an Indiana-based company to drive down here and plow these roads.
Even with closed streets and crews clearing the roads that are open, many drivers ended up stuck in snowbanks. In Alabama, Mobile's 7.5 inches broke the all-time snowfall record. In nearby Gulf Shores, flurries covered this beach.
There's just no words to describe it. Snow on the beach, who would have thought?
And crews are still working to clear out to our east, the I-10 West corridor that was closed, a significant portion of it, about 65 miles or so, because of the wintry weather. There is still a state of emergency in effect for many parts of North Florida as this region looks to dig out from the snow. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Tallahassee, Florida.
Well, we are actually finally seeing some snow here as well. Meteorologist Jacob Montesano has the first one forecast. And it's funny because I feel like those pictures should be here in Wisconsin, but it's not that significant.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite the unprecedented storm that is occurring down south. I wouldn't say our lack of snow is that unprecedented, but I've been making the jokes that they should borrow some of our snow plows. It's funny that they had to get some from Indiana because they don't have snow plows in New Orleans. Now, looking at the 3 things we need to know, a chance of snow will continue through the evening. It's still going to be cold the next couple of days, but it is going to be better compared to earlier this week. We don't have alert days in the forecast, but highs are only going to be around 20, so definitely on the colder side. But then for the weekend and next week, it will be a lot milder. Now, as we take a look at the current radar, again, still seeing that light snow. This is expected to continue for much of the day. Now, total accumulation will not be a lot, but because the ground is so cold, it won't take a lot of snow to accumulate. Could see about 1 inch, maybe a few areas exceeding 1 inch of snowfall if some locations do indeed see a little bit heavier precipitation of the snow. But for the most part, just some light snow through the evening, and then it's going to clear out during the overnight hours. We should see mostly clear skies by sunrise tomorrow. Now, as we look at the snowfall going forward, after this snow, we're looking pretty dry, at least through the weekend and early next week. Maybe some snow towards the end of next week. But for the most part, we're still going to be seeing pretty dry conditions, and the snow we're seeing today is certainly not enough to counter the lack of snow that we've seen so far this winter. Now, talking about the winds, they're still going to be a bit breezy the next couple of days, and right now they're out of the southwest, but later tonight they're going to be out of the northwest, which will bring in some colder air back into our area. Now, it's still cold right now, but it will cause those wind chills to be very cold once again, and breezy conditions will continue, especially through the early portion of the day Thursday. The good news is that by Thursday night and Friday morning, the winds will be almost non-existent, so the wind chills won't be quite as bad then. But looking at Thursday morning, wind chills could be back into the negative teens. Again, we don't have an alert day in the forecast for this just because it still will be better compared to earlier this week. But just be aware, it's going to be a very cold morning once again for Thursday. And although the winds winds aren't going to be a big factor Friday morning. The actual temperatures may still drop below zero, so we're still going to have wind chills below zero, probably in the negative single digits. And then Saturday morning, the wind chills will finally be above zero to start the day. Now, as we take a look at the highs going forward, again, highs near 20 for tomorrow and Friday. But take a look at the rest of the 10-day forecast. We're going to have some pretty mild temperatures. Average high is 27. We're going to be in the middle to upper 30s at times, maybe even lower 40s for Wednesday of next week and the following weekend. But we're still not seeing a lot of precipitation during this time frame. So again, still going to see cold temperatures the next couple of days, but we are going to be seeing that those conditions as a whole improve over the weekend.
All right, it's crazy when today actually feels pretty nice.
Yeah, right.
We've made it. All right, Jacob, thank you. Well, Emmy-winning comedian Trevor Noah will be hosting the Grammy Awards in less than 2 weeks. This will be the former The Daily Show host's 5th year hosting. Superstar singer Beyonce leads the pack of nominees this year with 11 nods, while Billie Eilish, Charli XCX, Kendrick Lamar, and Post Malone have 7 each. The Grammys will support wildfire relief initiatives and honor the dedicated first responders to the devastating wildfires in Los Angeles. You can watch the Grammys on February 2nd right here on WISC-TV. Hollywood award season usually highlights the best movies of the year, but not always. The Razzie Awards honors cinematic underachievement. The Joker sequel leads the list of this year's nominations, scoring 7 nominations, including Worst Picture and Worst Actor and Actress for Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. Well, close behind with 6 nominations apiece are the other Worst Picture nominees: the video game and adaptation Borderlands, the comic book flick Madame Web, Francis Ford Coppola's Megapolis, and the biographical drama Reagan. Now let's see what Howard's working on in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
The buffalo wing craze continues with a new go-along that your gang will absolutely love. Really, no bones about it. Months ago, I was having lunch at the original birthplace of buffalo wings, the Anchor Bar in Buffalo. While I was eating, I was thinking not only how popular these spicy wings are, but how much we love anything cooked with the taste of buffalo wings. Everything from soups to dips, even side dishes. To make this one, all we do is toss a head of cauliflower that we cut into florets with some oil and a little salt and pepper. Once that's mixed, onto a baking sheet it goes, and we'll bake it off until the edges start to get crispy. Don't be afraid to let them sort of caramelize, because that's what gives these a ton of flavor. While that cooks, we'll whip up a sauce to coat these with, which is the same sauce that Teresa and Frank whipped up in their Anchor Bar kitchen some years ago. Once the cauliflower is done, all we do is toss it with the buffalo sauce. Then onto a platter they go, topped with some crumbled blue cheese, and we have the taste of buffalo wings in a side dish that is second to none. You gotta go online and get the recipe for what we call buffalo cauliflower, so you can be armed with a new go-along that your gang will go along with. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we're looking for a classic way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Jacob has a final check of your first warned weather. We got some snow and also some milder temperatures to look forward to, Jacob.
Yeah, the snow is expected for a good chunk of today, but it still is going to be on the lighter side, but the roads may still be slippery. Now, temperatures will remain on the colder side as well, although better than the last couple of days. That's going to continue through Friday. Highs will be near 20, but then 30s for Saturday. 30s also are in the forecast for a lot of next week, but still not a lot of snowfall. So although we are seeing some snow right now, like I mentioned a moment ago, this certainly is not enough to counter the lack of snow that we've seen over the course of this winter. Now, there were portions of Louisiana that got up to 13 inches of snow reported, which is more than our area, at least for Madison, this entire winter. So this is a very, very strange winter to say the least, because although we haven't seen a lot of snow, it hasn't necessarily been warm. In fact, it's been colder than normal, and we have plenty of snow in the Gulf of Mexico. So I don't know what to say, Josh. This has just been a weird winter, because usually, you know, if it's warm and it's not snowing, that makes sense, but it's been cold enough to snow. It just hasn't really done it that much.
And I think if it's going to be cold, we might as well have snow, so it looks
nicer.
nicer
I agree.
outside. All right, Jacob, thank you. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you at 4.